The Galactic Empire in horror. Humanity's first dreadnought arrives. And what's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it that way. Now let's get into today's interesting story. Captain Alara Voss had two jobs: keeping 5 million souls alive, and personally threatening every single bolt, pipe, and power conduit that conspired to do otherwise. She gave the offending metal another percussive suggestion with a wrench. The clang echoed flatly in the cramped service crawl space. The bolt, a relic from the original series colony ship that an engineer had unceremoniously welded onto the rock 60 years ago, remained unmoved. The thing stood as a monument to a man named Harkin, whose shoddy workmanship plagued her family for 3 generations. She wedged herself in a tunnel so tight she could smell the synth grease on her own cheek. The scrubbed air was thick with the acrid scent of superheated ceramic from the fried power conduit she'd just bypassed. This was her life, an endless, grimy argument with dead engineers and stubborn metal. A low thrum vibrated through the deck plates beneath her, a familiar bass note that resonated in her jaw. The vibration was the sound of 5 million souls breathing, working, shouting, loving, all woven into the discordant chorus of several thousand mismatched engines. The sound was home. Then another sound cut through it, a shriek. The cry of a red alert klaxon pierced the air, a sound that had remained silent for a generation. Drills were a polite, pre-recorded chime, a gentle request to check station status. The noise that currently rattled her fillings was the sound of a universe that had just remembered its personal hatred for you and came over to explain why. Son of a glitch, Alara muttered, her feud with Harkin's ghost forgotten. She shimmied backward out of the crawl space, her heavy mag boots clanging on the mesh floor. She broke into a run before her feet were fully under her. Her mind a flurry of diagnostic checklists. The journey to the bridge was a frantic, full-body immersion into the soul of humanity's last, best, and ugliest creation. She sprinted down a wide corridor that doubled as the main street of the new Kyoto arcology, its air a blended reek of a dozen cuisines. She dodged a hovering cart piled high with steaming noodle bowls and skidded on a slick patch of synth oil near a hydroponics vat that overflowed with genetically belligerent tomatoes. The thing seemed to glare at her as she passed. The air shifted from the sharp bite of hot metal on the engineering decks to a rich miasma of spices, damp soil, and the faint, sweet smell of yeast from a brewery hab tucked between a power substation and a daycare. She heard snippets of a dozen conversations, a cacophony of concerns. Shouted over the klaxons, "Get the kids inside. Is it the pirates again? Someone owes me 20 credits. She vaulted a low, graffiti-covered barrier and cut through. A zero-G gymnasium, a vast spherical chamber, where kids in brightly colored vac suits played a game that looked like tag, mixed with orbital mechanics. Their joyous shouts, now tinged with fear, echoed eerily alongside the blaring alarms. They paused their game, bodies orienting toward the nearest emergency station with the unthinking swiftness born of countless drills. One of them, a little girl with a fierce grin, gave her a thumbs up. Alara returned a grim, tight-lipped smile and moved on. Her path took her across a transparent plastil observation deck overlooking a cavernous fabrication bay lit by the white-hot glare of plasma welders. Crews dismantled a freighter hulk piece by piece, their movements interlocking and swift, its raw materials already fed into industrial-sized printers that extruded support beams for a new residential block. Everything was recycled. Everything had a purpose. Failure was just raw material for the next attempt. The constant low hum of the drive choir pulsed beneath her feet, a reminder of the ugly, beautiful heart of it all. Finally, she burst onto the bridge. This was no sterile, silent chamber of a military vessel. The place was a hub of activity, more like a stock exchange trading floor during a market crash. Crew members shouted readouts, their voices weaving through the klaxon's blare. Half-empty coffee cups and squeezed-out protein gel tubes littered the consoles. In the center of it all, the main view screen showed a single object that hung in the star-dusted black, a Zephyric probe, sleek, silver, and shaped like a scalpel. It moved with an unnatural fluid grace. Every line of its design was a testament to a technology that had never known the concept of good enough. Beautiful, elegant, and the most terrifying thing Alara had ever seen. "Juno. Report," she barked, sliding into her command chair. Her tactical officer, a wiry man with a perpetually worried expression, kept his eyes on the console. "Zephyric, Captain." Confirmed one probe. No weapon signatures, but it's bathing us in every scan known to science, and a few it probably just invented. It's dissecting us from a distance. Well, tell it to stop. She growled. "Open a channel." "Standard greeting. Already tried," Juno said, shaking his head. "They're ignoring us." "Prepare boarding parties," Zailing commanded. "Breach the hull at multiple points. Locate and neutralize their central command." Zephyric assault pods, hardened projectiles designed to punch through meters of warship armor, slammed into Big Mama's hull. A squad of Zephyric elite, led by Subcommander Tecton, breached what their scans identified as a structurally significant section. They expected resistance, but not what they found. Their entry point cut through the outer wall of the Grand Mesa shopping district. The Zephyric commandos, clad in sleek silver armor and armed with pulse rifles, stormed into a 3-story atrium filled with noodle shops, electronic stalls, and startled civilians. The air smelled of fried dough and superheated wiring. For a moment, everyone just stared. Tecton's command display flickered with unclassified life signs and structural anomalies. Then chaos erupted. A shopkeeper hurled a sizzling wok at the lead commando's helmet with a furious scream. The fight became brutal and immediate. The battleground was a residential block, and the defenders were 5 million angry homeowners. What began as a military breach escalated into a full-scale home invasion. The residents responded accordingly. As Tecton and his soldiers tried to advance, bulkheads, designed to contain market fires and atmospheric breaches, slammed shut, trapping them in a shifting maze. The corridors reconfigured themselves in real time based on votes from the local shopkeepers association. They were funneled into ambushes. Welders waited with industrial-grade plasma cutters. Maintenance crews wielded magnetic grapples like medieval flails, and dock workers in heavy exoskeletons struck with terrifying precision. In one sector, a squad breached a wall only to find themselves upside down on the ceiling of a gymnasium. Their magnetic boots clung desperately to the plates. The local defense council, led by the gym's PE teacher, a woman with a commanding voice, simply reversed the gravity plates. The elite soldiers, trained for 0G combat but unprepared for a sudden 1G reversal, plummeted into the floor, screaming into the unforgiving embrace of physics. That day, the Zephyric forces learned a universal truth: never mess with a human's home. Big Mama was not a warship. She was a home. They captured Tecton, who they thought had a name as subtle as a rock slide. Ilara Voss, monitoring the chaotic internal defense from the bridge, gave a calm order: take him to the auditorium on deck 16. Tecton, stripped of his weapons but not his pride, was marched under heavy guard into a vast sunlit cavern. Real trees grew from rich soil under full-spectrum sun lamps. Children laughed and chased each other around a fountain. The ship shuddered from a distant impact, but no one panicked. A maintenance crew ambled over to a crack in the viewport, patched it with expanding sealant foam, and kept arguing about a card game. Tecton sat on a bench, confused. Ilara arrived a few minutes later, wiping grease from her hands with a rag. She sat beside him, leaving a respectful distance. For a long moment, they just sat. Finally, Tecton's rigid worldview crumbled. "Why?" he whispered. "Why are you not disciplined? Why do you permit this chaos? You are dying. This structure is a testament to failure." Ilara watched as a young girl helped a maintenance worker apply a patch. "This is why," she said softly. "We see a leak and someone fixes it. Failure built this place. It's in our bones. We don't ignore it, we build on it." She turned toward him, her eyes steady. "You see chaos. I see resilience. You see emotion as weakness. We see it as the glue that holds everything together. We laugh, we cry, we get angry, and we get the job done. We smile, because it keeps the rust out." Envoy Kayla was a scientist first, and the data horrified her. Every predictive model of human behavior crashed. The data made no sense, irrational decisions leading to impossible victories. It was like watching a slime mold solve a maze, intelligence without intellect. Driven by curiosity, she bypassed Admiral Zailing's firewalls and ran the data through a model for emergent intelligence, used for studying ecosystems. Not warfare, a pattern emerged. The humans had no rigid hierarchy, no central command. Instead, a higher order, a symphony of consensus, arose from millions of independent agents. Her fingers trembled as she sent an encrypted message to the human network. Kayla, you're not chaos.
What are you?
Darius, we are the conversation. Kayla, my models cannot process you. Your actions defy logic, Darius. That's because your models assume a single mind. You're trying to measure the ocean by capturing one wave in a bucket, Kayla. An ocean of individuals? Darius, yes, but we act as one, through faith in each other. Admiral Zailing, watching his fleet battered and morale shattered, pulled back. He planned a siege, a slow starvation. But a week later, his officers reported something impossible. Admiral, the human ship, it's not starving. The tactical feed showed Big Mama deploying massive magnetic scoops and swarms of scavenger drones. They harvested wreckage, broken ships, even spent ammunition, feeding it all into onboard fabricators. They're recycling the battlefield, the officer said, pale. Turning our ships into theirs. Zailing's ideology cracked. His civilization believed order consumes chaos, but the humans had inverted the rule. Chaos consumed order. Desperate, Zailing ordered his final weapon, the balance net, a synchronized firing pattern so complex it required a planetary-scale computer to calculate. The fleet moved into a perfect geometric lattice around Big Mama, beautiful, symmetrical, and lethal. For the first time, Big Mama's collective consciousness, the choir, felt fear. The perfection of the enemy's formation was an attack not just on their ship, but on their very belief system. On the bridge, Darius watched the network degrade into panic. Alara shouted, "Shut it down! The choir is tearing us apart! I'll fly this bucket myself if I have to." Darius looked at her, sweat dripping from his brow. "No," he said quietly. "Do the opposite." "The opposite?" She repeated, stunned. "That's chaos." "Exactly," he said, his eyes alight. "We open the floodgates. Every citizen gets control of something. A turret, a thruster, a drone. We weaponize the panic itself." Alara stared. "That's madness." "You'll kill us all." "Your way guarantees death," he replied. "Mine gives us a chance." She looked at the screens. 5 million terrified minds connected through the choir. Her people. Her home. Her chaos. She took a deep breath and keyed the ship-wide comms. "All right, you bastards," she said, voice steady. "You wanted a say in how this ship runs? You've got it. When you see the pretty lights, do something. Anything. Shoot, steer, scream. But try not to hit Hydroponics Bay 12. They just got the new strawberries. Patch out." The balance net fired. A perfect, synchronized blast of energy, and Big Mama exploded into chaos. 5 million reflexes, 5 million desperate acts, all at once. Cargo haulers launched junk as decoys. Maintenance drones became kamikaze shields. Every thruster fired in random microbursts. The ship bucked, twisted, and spun like a living creature. The Zephyric targeting systems couldn't compute it. The perfect weapon met perfect chaos and failed. The balance net collapsed. The wave fizzled into nothing. Zailing's bridge fell silent. His fleet, shattered, humiliated, hung powerless in the void. On Big Mama's bridge, a different silence took hold. Then, from somewhere deep in the ship, a single whoop of joy. Then another. Then millions. They had survived. Alara slumped into her chair, laughing, a raw, exhausted sound of victory. Darius stood beside her, tears streaking his face. The choir's light pulsed in calm, golden rhythm. "You magnificent, crazy son of a bitch," Alara whispered. "The choir sings, Captain." Darius replied softly, "It always does." A new signal appeared on the display. A small Zephyric shuttle, unarmed, requesting asylum. "It's Kayla," Darius said, smiling. "She's coming over," Alara nodded. "Clear her for docking." As Kayla was greeted by grease-stained engineers and curious children, Alara asked, "Damage report?" Darius scrolled through the chaos. "Extensive. 3 cargo bays gone. Deck 27's plumbing now flows backward. And we lost all the tofu." Alara leaned back, smirking. "Sounds about right. Fix the plumbing. The tofu can stay gone." New signals flickered across the map. Human outposts, alien ships, trading fleets, each asking the same question. Is there room for more? Alara smiled at the stars. Big Mama, scarred and beautiful, began to turn. Engines rumbled in harmony. The ship had become more than a home. It was a beacon, a song, a living symbol of defiant, chaotic hope. now heading out to gather its children home.